Parmigiani.
Parmigiani.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
What's going on?
We're here at Parmigiani Fleurier.
Yes.
This is, I have to say, this is the brand that anybody who dares call themselves a watch enthusiast, this is a brand that needs to be on your radar.
Most definitely.
Really fantastic pieces, but they don't necessarily have the level of attention I think they all deserve.
Completely agree with you on that one.
You know, the Fleurier manufacturer, they build all their movements in-house, and they even supply movements to some of the most prestigious brands that you know, are their competitors, but they use their movements because they're just so well hand decorated, and we can get more into that later.
Definitely.
But a bunch of great watches. Each year the catalog is only getting better and better, and one that really stood out, I know, Jeremy, you really want to talk about it. Why don't you just dig right in?
The one that really stood out for me was the Tonda Rattrapante GMT. That one in itself, I put that on. I love what they did in terms of it being a two-hander, but you touch the button on the 8 o'clock, and that will move the time zone. And the simple press with the rose gold hand in the crown resets it back, and it looks like a two-hander again, which is completely amazing in my opinion.
So it's a really simple, easy to use watch that,
discreet too.
Yeah, all of us traveling right now to different watch fairs, yeah, it would come quite in handy,
Very true.
But yeah, so there was another piece that personally really stood out to me.
Which one stood out for you?
The Tonda PF Flying Tourbillon. Now, if you read my reviews on the site, if you've heard me on podcasts, anywhere, I use the phrase stealth wealth a lot. But
I think
this,
you do.
Yeah, I do.
You love stealth wealth.
Yeah, well, we're New Yorkers, so stealth wealth is kind of a requirement.
Yes.
So stealth wealth, why am I saying this? Because the entire watch is platinum, the entire watch. But as a white metal, you wouldn't know it unless you're told, okay? The dial, platinum. The bezel, the knurled bezel, platinum. The case, platinum. The bracelet, platinum. And when I say this thing is the most pleasantly heavy on the wrist. I mean, don't worry, you're not going to like fall to the bottom of the ocean, but it is just so, it's the definition of tactile luxury, really.
I agree.
And the platinum dial has this beautifully frosted surface and cut out asymmetrically. You can see the flying tourbillon rotating. It's a marvel to look at. I know I've been on the record saying that a tourbillon is not particularly my favorite complication, but when it's as decorated as this watch and the movement is,
I think you're willing to make an exception for that watch.
Yeah, I'd be very willing to make an exception for this watch.
Yeah.
All right. So we've tackled the flying tourbillon. Now let's fly on to something else.
So the one thing I really like is when you could actually see the movements and everything inside of a watch. So the skeleton really stood out for me.
Okay, tell me why.
So what really stood out for me with the skeleton is the legibility of the time, but also just how detailed the bridges were, the darkened bridges, and I really loved the rose gold applied indices and finishing on that one too. So all in all, with the skeleton dial, it had an elegance, it felt slim on the wrist, and it just was like art on my wrist every time I looked at it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, because on that steel model with the platinum bezel, to have the contrasting rose gold indices really allows the indication to pop, so it's much easier to see. And look, as we know, with these open worked, when they're really decorated to the nines, as a watch like this is,
sometimes
the chamfers really glisten, so you do need that contrasting color tone to really take in the time.
And it ends up being something that you have just for the decoration of it, not really for the time. But this one, they did a really good job with making sure that time can be read.
All right, so last but not least, we have the Tonda PF Chronographs, okay? We have two distinct models, one in stainless steel, and we have another two in rose gold. Now, the stainless steel model has a big date and annual calendar, okay? In rose gold, we're jumping up the hertz from 4 hertz to 5 hertz, so a high beat chronograph, and the big date complication. So no more annual calendar, that's the trade-off for the high beat, but nonetheless, these chronographs are really stunning, and they're on very comfortable straps.
Yep.
Very, well, you're the wrist model, so you can speak to that a little bit.
So I modeled this on the wrist for a little while, and I got to say, felt like it was part of my wrist itself. There was no struggle to put it on, take it off. It moved around perfectly. It hugged my wrist as if it was one with me. Yeah. That matters a lot.
The range of watches at Parmigiani really are about understated elegance. There's a casualness to them, but there's also a formality to it. Really, they can be worn with anything. So, you know, these chronographs and these straps, they're just so highly versatile. Any season, they're going to be in fashion. I don't think you can go wrong.
You can't.
I don't think you can go wrong.
What I really loved too was just the gray subdials that were in the chronograph.
Yeah, Yeah.
Really nice contrast, the texture within the subdial. That really pops
Sort
for
of
me too.
the pseudo panda aesthetic.
Yes.
It's always a winner. Look, there's a lot of ground to cover here, so stay tuned for more in-depth coverage on this collection, and we're out to the next one.
We're off to the next. I'll see you guys later.
See ya.